Hope you guys are doing well. I have another musings I want to share with you guys today. It's from the book of Isaiah and chapters 36 and 37. It's an interesting passage. I've been going through the book of Isaiah this last month or two. It's a pretty long book. And it's a scripture that has been repeated here in Isaiah, the prophet, from what was also written in 2 Kings 18 and 19, as well as in 2 Chronicles 32, I think. Yeah, 31, 32, 33, like that. And whenever you see something in the Bible that's repeated again and again, and sometimes again, I think we ought to take note. I think there's a lesson to be learned. And so I want to share some things with you guys, and again, just share some thoughts and some of my musings from reading the scriptures. I also wanted to plug this book. It's a book called Living by the Book by Howard Hendricks. It's a dated book. It's probably like 20-some years old. I first started reading it back in 1995 when I took a disciple class. It's a really, really good book on Bible study, personal Bible study and reading. He really talks about three different things: observation of the text, interpreting the text, and then how to apply it to your life. Primarily, the focus of that book and what we do when we read the Bible is observation. Asking the who, what, when, where, and why, looking at the text, thinking about it, meditating on it, gathering facts about what we've read, observing the words and studying the words, and thinking about what's taking place, thinking the order of events, those types of things. And that is just a wonderful thing to do. It is just a wonderful thing. And so I encourage you to consider that. And so let's get into this passage about King Hezekiah and how he was faced with an incredible army that came to his doorstep to attack and to take his kingdom, to take his city, and what he does. And I hope it's an encouragement to you. We see examples of good people and bad people in the Bible, and this is definitely one that we need to take note of, and how Hezekiah responds to this great army that has come to the walls of Jerusalem to attack it. So I want to turn the view. We'll look at my actual Bible, and we'll walk through the words there. So give me just a second. Alrighty, Isaiah chapter 36. Now, Isaiah is the prophet during the reign of a number of kings, but King Hezekiah in this particular story, this event, happens around 701 BC. And like I said, it's repeated in 2 Kings 18, as well as 2 Chronicles 32. And it talks about the 14th year of King Hezekiah, that Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the defense cities of Judah and took them. Okay, so a little help here. I like to look at my maps because I like to get a visual of what's going on here. So let me get my Bible map up that I want to show you guys. So, this is Assyria way up here. You can see Nineveh, capital of Assyria, up here. And then you have, this is actually a trail showing of Abraham and his travels, but then you have, of course, here the nation of Israel. At the time of this period in the life of the nation of Israel, it is actually split. There's a northern kingdom, actually called Israel, and then there's a southern kingdom down here called Judah, and that is the capital Jerusalem, and King Hezekiah is the king of the southern kingdom. And so right after David and Solomon, the nation of Israel split. You had kings of the north, kings of the south, and they separated and even attacked one another. Lovely, right? So, and then of course you have Egypt down here in the south. So this gives you a little picture of what's taken place. The king of Assyria, Sennacherib, at this time has come down, He's already taken the northern kingdom away into captivity. Now he's going after the southern kingdom. So let's see what happens. Well, before we see what happens, I want to give you a little bit of context, okay? A little bit more context, let's say. So, back in 2 Kings tells us, actually 2 Chronicles, I'm sorry. 2 Chronicles tells us a little bit about the great things that Hezekiah was doing. Hezekiah was a man who became king when he was 25 years old. Unfortunately, his father, Ahaz, was not a good king. We talk, chapter 28 talks about Ahaz the king and how he he trespassed against the Lord, it says, and he did some really despicable things. It says he sacrificed unto the gods of Damascus. And then it says that he gathered together the vessels of the house of God and cut in pieces the vessels of the house of God, shut up the doors of the house of the Lord, made altars in every corner of the city. And he provoked the Lord to anger by burning incense into other gods. Very sad what he did. So Hezekiah did not have a good example in his father. His mother was a good example. That's for another time. But he did some great things. He restored the house of the Lord. He restored the worship. He cleansed the temple. He reinstated the Passover, and he helped out the priests and the Levites, getting people to give willingly to the temple, and everything was going great in his kingdom. It says here they had great gladness, and then there was great joy in Jerusalem. Everything was great, and he even built storehouses, because the giving that was giving money and items to the temple was so great that he had to prepare storehouses or chambers, because they had so much stuff come into the temple, they didn't have a place to put it all. And he said, it kind of sums it up here in chapter 31 of 2 Chronicles, that Hezekiah did all this stuff in Judah, wrought what was good and right and truth before the Lord his God. Every work that he began in the service of the house of God, and in the law and in the commandments to seek his God, he did it with all his heart and prospered. So it's like, wow, great. This is great. Everything's going terrific. He has done a terrific thing. His actions, his words, great king. But then we have trouble. We have trouble. And this chapter 32 is basically very similar to what we see in Isaiah. So let's go back over to Isaiah. But right there we can observe a couple things. Just because we serve the Lord and just because we may do what's right and good doesn't mean we won't have trouble. And actually, God will sometimes allow trouble to come our way to test our faith, to test us. So just because we have something bad happen to us, or we're presented with a difficult circumstance or situation, doesn't mean God is against us. It is an opportunity for us to demonstrate our faith and to trust him or not. So let's look at what happens when the king of Assyria sends his goons to Jerusalem, to King Hezekiah, and we see some of the language that they use, the trash talking that goes on, and we see what happens when Hezekiah hears all this. So let's get back in here into Isaiah 36. So we see here in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the defense cities of Judah and took them. So he's already. So let's observe this, right? 14th year, so Hezekiah's been king for a while. He's done a lot of great things in the nation.
But they've also suffered defeat. All the defense cities of Judah have been taken over by the Assyrians, and now they've come to the doorstep of the capital, Jerusalem. Wow. Wow. So, again, God is testing them. They've already experienced defeat, and now they've come right here to his front doorstep. What is Hezekiah going to do? So here comes Rabshakeh from Lachish to Jerusalem unto King Hezekiah with a great army. He stood by the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field, and that just means he's really close to the walls of Jerusalem, and he comes up to talk to him. And it says, Then came forth unto him Eliakim, Hilkiah's son, which was over the house, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah the Asaph's son, the recorder. So Hezekiah sends out 3 men to talk to Rabshakeh, the representative of the king of Assyria, and here is terms, right? So what does Rabshakeh do, this Assyrian? He says unto them, Say ye now to Hezekiah, Thus saith the great king, the king of Assyria, What confidence is this wherein thou trusteth? I say, sayest thou, but they are but vain words. I have counsel and strength for war. Now in whom dost thou trust, that thou rebellest against me? So he is already attacking the confidence that the Assyrians have, that King Hezekiah has in rebelling against, not paying tribute, not paying taxes, and falling under the foot of the Assyrians who have come. It says, okay, hey, we're going to basically we're going to attack you and kill you if you don't pay us tribute. So what are you going to do? Where's this confidence that you think you can stand against us, basically? Verse 6. Lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed on Egypt, whereon if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all that trust in him. So basically he's saying, don't trust in Egypt. Those Egyptians, they'll stab you in the back. Don't trust in them. Verse 7. But if you say to me, we trust in the Lord our God, is it not he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah had taken away, and said to Judah and Jerusalem, you shall worship before this altar? I think he's got some bad scoop here. But at the end of the day, he's like, don't trust in the Lord. Then he says, Now therefore give pledges, I pray thee, to my master king of Assyria, and I will give thee 2,000 horses, if thou be able on thy part to set riders upon them. Oh, so now he starts trash talking them, right? He says, you pay us tribute, right? And I'll give you 2,000 horses. And if you've got 2,000 people to put on them, right? 2,000 warriors, 2,000 strong men that are willing to ride into battle on these horses. So, yeah, he's definitely deriding them and trying to intimidate them. Verse 9. How then wilt thou turn away the face of one captain of the least of my master's servants, and put thy trust on Egypt for chariots and horsemen? And am I now come up without the Lord against this land to destroy it? The Lord said to me, go up against this land and destroy it. Have you ever heard somebody say, well, God told me to do this, and it was a wrong thing? It was something that was bad. That's what's happening here. We have this Assyrian basically saying that the Lord has told me to come and destroy this land of yours. Wow. Wow. There's some talking going on. How are the Israelites, those in Jerusalem, gonna take these words? Then said Eliakim and Shebna and Joah unto Rabshakeh, Speak, I pray thee, unto thy servants in the Syrian language, for we understand it. Speak not to us in the Jews' language, in the ears of the people that are on the wall. Oh, well, that's interesting. This whole time, this Rabshakeh, this Assyrian, is speaking Hebrew, speaking in the language that those on the wall in the town of Jerusalem can hear what he's saying and understand it. Wow. So they're like, don't speak in that language, because you might intimidate the people. They might be maybe deceived into turning away from their trust in the Lord and to believe what you say, to be intimidated, to become afraid. So what does Rabshakeh do when he says, don't speak in our native tongue, speak in your own language, we understand it. So Rabshakeh says, hath my master sent me to thy master and to thee to speak these words? Hath he not sent me to the men that sit upon the wall, that they may eat their own dung and drink their own piss with you? Holy cow. He's going below the belt now. He is really speaking trash. He says, not only have I come to speak to your master, but to speak to these, the whole men of the city. To bring fear, right? Because he said here he wants to destroy the land and to intimidate them, that they may eat their own dung. We know what he's talking about there. And drink their own piss with you. So he's lumping those three all together. Basically, this is what's going to happen to you if you don't do what I say. Then he goes on and he talks more trash. It says in a loud voice, hear ye the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus saith the king, let not Hezekiah deceive you, for he shall not be able to deliver you. Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, the Lord will surely deliver us. This city shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Hearken not to Hezekiah, for thus saith the king of Assyria, make an agreement with me. Buy a present, come out to me, and eat ye every one of his vine, and every one of his fig tree, and drink every one the waters of his own cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards. Beware lest Hezekiah persuade you, saying, the Lord will deliver us. Hath any of the gods of the nations delivered his land out of the hand of the king of Assyria? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arphat? Where are the gods of Seraphaim? And have they delivered Samaria out of my hand? Who are they among all the gods of these lands that have delivered their land out of my hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? So we've got a good 7-8 verses of trash talk, trying to break in, right? Because you would think that the Israelites here are of one mind, right? They're one strong nation, one strong city. They're tied together. He's trying to get them to doubt. He's trying to get them to break faith with their brothers, their king, and their God. He's trying to instill fear and intimidate. And of course, he's got a massive army behind him. And you would think that he would get some to break away. But look at his words, because they're lies. And that's one thing that we have to be good at. We have to be good at identifying those that are lying to us, those that aren't telling us the whole truth. What is the whole truth? Well, he's already said he's going to destroy it, and he wants them to drink their own urine, eat their own dung. He doesn't have good intended for the people of this city, but then he lies to them and says, hey, make an agreement with me, and everything will be fine. Everyone will have his own vine, his own fig tree. You'll drink the waters out of your own well. And then one day, I will come and take you to a land just like your own, a land of corn, wine, land of bread and vineyards. Basically, he's saying, I'll take you away and you'll be a slave. He's lying to them. We have to recognize deception when it comes to our doorstep. And you can see, whenever you try to pacify an invading army that has destroyed the fenced cities, destroyed the other nations around them, don't think they're going to be kind to you and let you off if you just pay them off. It's not going to happen. And actually, if you look at 2 Kings, it already says that Hezekiah had paid some tribute to them, and they still came to attack. Apparently it wasn't enough. Is it ever enough? So we have all this trash talk going on in chapter 36, and we have all this fear, this blasphemous words being spoken and all this fear that may be creeping in to the nation of Israel and to the people in Jerusalem and to the king himself, what are they going to do? What's their response going to be? It says, then came Eliakim. Well, what did the people do? First of all, they held their peace, answered him not a word, for the king's commandment was saying, answer him not. So already they're obeying their king and not speaking back and trash talking back. That's a good lesson for us, right? If somebody gets in our face, starts talking trash to us, answer him not. What a great advice. Hold your peace. Don't say a word. Go on your merry way. Interesting. Then came Eliakim the son of Hilkiah, that was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah the son of Asaph, the recorder, to Hezekiah with their clothes rent, and told him the words of Rabshakeh. When you see clothes being torn, people wearing sackcloth and ashes in the Bible, it's a massive sign of humility, of low, of trouble. But look what he does. So Hezekiah hears, come to chapter 37, Hezekiah hears, he tears his clothes, covers himself with sackcloth, and then he went into the house of the Lord. My friends, I have James 4:6 here. God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. We have to humble ourselves. This is an incredible army that has come against Jerusalem. They have never seen defeat, and now they're at their doorstep. What are they going to do? They don't have the wherewithal to defend themselves. They don't have the army to do it. They don't have the skill, the people. They throw themselves onto God, their Lord. And the king comes into the house of the Lord. And then it says that he sends word to Isaiah the prophet, and Isaiah the prophet responds in verse 6. And Isaiah said unto them, Thus shall ye say unto your master, Thus saith the Lord, Be not afraid of the words that thou hast heard, wherewith the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Behold, I will send a blast upon him. He shall hear a rumor, return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. What encouraging words from the prophet Isaiah, speaking. God had spoken to him, and he's passing these words back to the king. Don't be afraid. God is going to take care of it. Wow, how comforting that had to have been to Hezekiah. There's another exchange here where the king of Assyria gives a letter, and it's handed to Hezekiah. And the letter basically says, some of the same. All these nations, the gods of these nations were not able to destroy or stop me. Your God is nothing. I'm going to take care of them and take care of you. You need to pay tribute, or I'm going to destroy you. Hezekiah receives this letter, verse 14. He reads it. What does he do? He goes up into the house of the Lord and spreads it before the Lord. And Hezekiah prays. Guys, that's where it starts. If there's anything that you get out of this musing that I'm sharing with you today, when you're faced with a terrible situation or a trying situation, we humble ourselves and we go to the Lord. We can't solve all of our problems. We can't solve all of the troubles that come our way. We need help. And God says, come to me. It's the great message of the whole Bible, is to come to the Lord, and he'll help you. And so when we're faced with it, Hezekiah doesn't do anything first. His first step is to go to the house of the Lord and pray. Send message to the prophet, right? It's like gets godly counsel, but he prays. Look at what he prays. I'll try to go through this quickly. I only got a few minutes left. O Lord of hosts, God of Israel, that dwellest between the cherubims, thou art the God, even thou alone. Of all the kingdoms of the earth thou hast made heaven and earth. Incline thine ear, O Lord, and hear. Open thine eyes, O Lord, and see. Hear all the words of Sennacherib, which hath sent to reproach the living God. Of a truth, Lord, the kings of Assyria have laid waste all the nations and their countries, have cast their gods into the fire, for they were no gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone. Therefore have they destroyed them. Now therefore, O Lord our God, save us from his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that thou art the Lord, even thou only. He prays truth. He doesn't mince words. He prays truth. It's very succinct, right? You don't have to pray long prayers. But our prayers need to be honest, the reflections of truth. And we ask God to hear, right? To save us. We don't know how God's going to do it. Hezekiah had no clue how God was going to answer prayer. But he says, just save us. God, it's in your hands. You take care of this. And ultimately, not for Hezekiah's glory, but that the kingdoms of the earth may know that thou art the Lord, even thou only. We pray like that God alone receives the glory. God's going to do something. Well, let's look and see what he does. I'm going to skip over much of chapter 37. You can read it on your own. But look at what happens here. 33. This is the end. Therefore thus saith the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shields, nor cast a bank against it. By the way that he came, by the same shall he return, and shall not come into this city, saith the Lord. For I will defend this city, to save it for mine own sake, and for my servant David's sake. Then the angel of the Lord went forth, smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. That's 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. Wow. When you read through the scriptures and you see how God delivers the nation of Israel time and time and time again, and puts them through the knothole, and tests their faith, and disciplines them for their lack of faith, God doesn't always deliver them in the same way. Here, all they did was pray, and God sends an angel. And I tell you, God is either your greatest friend or your worst enemy. And in this case, he was their worst enemy. An angel of the Lord came and wiped them out. 185,000. They were all dead. A great victory for the nation of Israel, for Hezekiah and the king. But if you were an Assyrian fighting against the Lord and his people, that was a bad thing. What happened to King Sennacherib? So the king departed, went and returned and dwelled in Nineveh. It came to pass, as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch his god, that Adramelech and Sharezer, his son, smote him, and he died. Wow. God bless you guys.